And our next speaker is Alex Quarles. She's a senior associate on Village Capital's U.S. education practice, where she's responsible for managing deal flow and supporting entrepreneurs before, during, and after the Village Capital investment process. Previously, Alex worked as Director of Development for Living Classrooms of the National Capital Region, a regional nonprofit that lifts underserved communities out of poverty through hands-on education and job training programs. Alex was a member of the Teach for America Greater New Orleans Corps, where she taught Spanish at O. Perry Walker and L.B. Landry College and Career Prep, and she served as a foreign language department chair. Alex received her BA from Tulane University in International Development in Spanish and is currently working on her MBA at Columbia University. So Alex, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Hi guys, how is everyone? I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for having me. We're really excited to talk to you guys today about Village Capital, about our work more broadly, and then of course about our work in education specifically. So let me present this guy real quick. Awesome. So I'm going to go through a really quick presentation and then open it up to Q&A. So Village Capital, for those of you who don't know, this is the kind of the way that we see the world. We believe that the world faces an incredible amount of challenges, and we've narrowed into 5 specific sectors in which we feel that entrepreneurs can really have a deep impact in solving the world's greatest issues. And so we look at agriculture, education, energy, financial inclusion, and health. In education specifically, we define that pretty broadly. So we look not only at solutions in K-12, school models, in-class solutions, but also higher ed, alternative education, corporate L&D solutions. So pretty much anything in which someone is learning or being taught, we would consider that education for our fund. So we believe that investors tend to overlook startups that are best positioned to solve real-world problems. We believe that there are overlooked places, overlooked people, and overlooked industries, which we went ahead and defined in the earlier slide. Because of these blind spots, it's almost impossible to invest in entrepreneurs that are solving real-world issues. So these mental shortcuts lead to missed opportunities. There's pattern recognition, there's bandwidth wagon effect, there's short-termism. And so what we decided to do at Village Capital is change the process for making an investment to eliminate some of these shortcuts and hopefully find entrepreneurs everywhere that are really well positioned to solve these critical issues. So the solution is the Village Capital process. We find, train, and invest in entrepreneurs solving real world problems. And I'll dig into each of those pieces a little bit. So in the process of in our find process, we first identify a very specific problem statement that's gonna solve a problem within a sector and a market. We'll then source to find companies and select them going through what is similar to a traditional due diligence process. The next piece is our train. So we bring entrepreneurs together for a series of workshops. Those are those entrepreneurs that were picked in our selection process before, and go through an investment readiness program. So in addition to our curriculum where they learn how to look through the lens of the investor, entrepreneurs that work with us get a tremendous amount of external engagement, and then of course the peer learning, which is critical to our process. Finally, our investment process, we pre-commit capital, and then that capital is allocated through what we call a peer selection process. So the entrepreneurs effectively choose amongst themselves who gets funding from Village Capital. The final piece of that invest chunk of our process is the alumni support. Not only do companies that work with Village Capital get a tremendous amount of support during their actual time in the program, they also get a tremendous amount of support as alumni of Village Capital. So a quick overview of our curriculum. I want to just give you guys a taste of what that process looks like. So we run the curriculum. This is the train piece of our process. It takes about 4 months. The cohorts meet for 4 days, 3 different times throughout that process. So about every 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the schedule. And each of those 4 days is what you see in these workshops here. And you can see how we kind of grow entrepreneurs up through what we call our viral strategy to build their kind of muscles as the lens of the investor. This is viral. It's actually the framework that we use for a lot of our decision making internally, and then one that we also use with our entrepreneurs to help them in the peer review process to better understand and kind of put some common language around building different pieces of a business. I'm happy to dig into this more in Q&A if anyone's curious. So a quick sample selection of our investments. I gathered a couple from across the fund. We'll dig into the education cohort in a minute. But you can see we work not only in the US, but across the globe. So we have a team based that's in Washington, DC that runs all of our US ventures. And then we also have a team based in Mexico City that works across Latin America. One based in Bangalore that works primarily in India, but we're moving a little bit more into Southeast Asia. And then a team that's based in Nairobi that works across Africa. So these are some of our investments across sectors and across all of our geographies. Nepris is the one that, of course, is in our education cohort, education portfolio. They are an incredible company that brings professionals into the classroom and makes it really kind of tangible, makes learning really concrete for students interested in entering those fields. They have a focus on STEM and are looking to expand. So quick results on the fund performance. What we love about this peer rank model and peer assessment model is that it actually creates a better investment. We believe it creates a much stronger investment. We've had 13 profitable exits, 7 write-offs. We're still waiting for a big portion of the fund to realize. But what's really interesting here is the jobs created and the additional revenue generated, which we're very proud of. We have a third-party study that has run for the last 7 years. We've been using peer rank for 7 years now across different organizations. And we have a third-party study that we that run out of Emory University that tracks all of the data for us here. So just a quick note on the impact, incredible amount of jobs created, revenue generated, and of course, customers served, and then broken out across each of our sectors. So this number for low-income students is really one that we're also very proud of. 325,600 low-income students have been served across all of our companies in the U.S. education. In education, sorry, broadly, not just on the U.S. side. What we also love about our process is it's much more inclusive. So you'll see at the top, that's the average venture fund. At the bottom is our Village Capital fund. First thing you'll see is the geographic distribution of portfolio. Something we're really happy about is that we tend to allocate capital more broadly across the geographic range than a traditional fund, both within the US and globally. We believe that entrepreneurs in cities outside of New York, Boston, and San Francisco are also creating really great solutions, and we want to be kind of the catalyst for them to launch them into the market and show other investors that what they're building is really viable. The other piece that's really exciting for us is the gender distribution. Traditional fund has about 17% female founders or co-founders. Our fund is a 35% female founders or co-founders and rising. The education cohort this year was 50% female, something we're really excited about. So yeah. Our footprint, again, I spoke a little bit earlier about our geographic footprint, and you can kind of see we've really been able to expand globally. This is across 45 programs, 550 ventures trained. What's really exciting is there are 38 states within the US where our alumni operate, and that's something that we're really proud of. Just a quick look at our partners. Again, this is across all of our sectors. Within education, specifically, Lumina Foundation, AT&T, Kauffman Foundation as well works with us across the fund. And then a quick overview of our education portfolio. So we are in year 3 of our education portfolio. We'll make our 3rd investment in September. We run a fairly tight kind of cyclical program because of the nature of peer rank. So we make just 2 investments each year, and those 2 companies are in the same cohort. So we'll start sourcing for companies in about April. We'll make a selection in May, and then our companies run through the program pretty much from June through September. So the life cycle of a company that with us is fairly lengthy, even in what we call the diligence process. So what we're really excited about is that in that amount of time, we're able to really dig in deeply with companies and get to know them very intimately. And it creates, frankly, a better investment. It also helps us tremendously when we're speaking with other investors. A lot of our partners in the industry really like to see who we're looking at because we have this really deep depth of information about each of our companies. So this is Empower, one of our portfolio companies. They're a really interesting model. You can see on the screen, they provide high potential students access to financing so they can get to and through college. When they came to us in 2014, the market was just not interested in this company. They were too young. It wasn't a market anyone was interested in. We really saw this untapped market opportunity, and we saw the team in Manu and Mike. They're just an absolute powerhouse founders. And they've been able to grow, really tremendously with us over the last couple of years. So here's kind of just some details on them. A quote from Manu. They've closed $25 million in debt in 2016, which is, again, something we're really excited about. Something we hear a lot, and what the data is showing is that companies that go through our program, even if they're not invested in by Village Capital, which Empower was, they tend to raise more additional funding than they would if they hadn't gone through our accelerator. And so something that we're really, again, really proud of is the amount of access that we can provide for these entrepreneurs that we believe are really solving critical issues. Again, they're scaled to 26 employees. They're working with 160 plus universities, and they have $100 million in loan application volume. So that's all I have. Would love to open it up to questions and see if you guys have any thoughts, feedback, questions. Happy to dig into any of the slides. Just let me know.
Thank you, Alex. And so as before, there's a Q&A feature here in Zoom. And so please use that to ask your questions. I did have a question about this peer rank model, because it is definitely a differentiator, but it acknowledges something that I think a lot of investors tend to struggle with. And it's this idea that other people working in the field have the expertise needed to know what's going to work and what's not going to work. And it seems like you're essentially crowdsourcing the decision-making process so that so you don't have to do you still have to do a lot of market landscaping. You have to do your due diligence. You have to do all of that, but there's something in that is very intuitive. But then how do you apply it? How does it actually work? One of the things I'm thinking is you can lobby your friends to So can you walk us through a little bit more of how this process works?
Absolutely. So once I think for framing, what's kind of important to know is that we get a tremendous amount of applications. So this final cohort of 12 that we pick that's making the peer investment is incredibly curated. We spend a lot of time, even before we open applications, with that kind of problem statement piece of who's in the market, what are people seeing, what's interesting, what are other investors going to be interested in. And so, from there, then our team, really goes out pretty deeply into the market and says, not only who is everyone looking at, but who's everyone not looking at. You and I run into each other plenty of times. I'm everywhere and on Twitter and, crazy places, just trying to find companies that no one else is seeing. And that's what's really fun for us. And frankly, my favorite part of my job is where are these incredible untapped entrepreneurs? We have a great example of, Upswing. They're in our cohort right now. They're based out of Austin. They're just normal guys who had this really big problem of, one of the founders struggled through college, and he said, hey, how do I build this company? How do I make this better for other people? And he's not this big swinging entrepreneur. He's a super kind of normal guy. And he wasn't being noticed by the industry because he's not in Silicon Valley, and he's not, he's not kind of all over the place, but they've built this incredible company. And so all that's to say is there's an incredible amount of curation that happens before we even get this 12. So a couple other pieces to that. We'll never take two direct competitors. We're very particular about, even though all of our companies are solving the same problem, they're hitting it from a different point in the value chain. So they know a lot about each other, but none of them will ever be in direct competition. We then kind of bring them through this series, and I can pull Viral back up again, and of kind of looking very meticulously at every piece of their company. So we look at their team, we look at their value prop, and they do this together. It's not us as Village Capital saying, hey, here's Upswing, here's what we think their market is. Like, now you guys kind of talk about it. It's, hey, Upswing, you're going to present to the rest of the group about your market sizing, and then we're all going to have a group discussion. And it's really led by the cohort. And we've been so lucky this year in particular. It's an incredible group of individuals. They love digging into each other's companies. They really want to learn. So I think it's twofold in that these companies not only want to learn about themselves, but they want to learn about each other. I mean, we have 2 companies in our cohort this year that are thinking about coming together. They're forming a separate company because they hit 2 different points on the same value chain. But anyways, so they go through this process, they present on each piece of their business model. They not only work with each other, but we bring in a lot of outside people. So external investors, external mentors, customers, to get one more lens. And we really push the entrepreneurs. So if we're in a group setting where we're looking at, I don't say it's the financials, you'll have one entrepreneur present, another entrepreneur serve as a mentor, and then a third external mentor. So that second entrepreneur really learns how to build that, like how to flex that muscle of how do I look at this company from an external perspective. And that's what we hear time and time again is so valuable, even if they don't get investment from us. When they go into the market, they kind of have that lens on themselves. But yeah, and then it's a very complicated rank system. We have a platform and a web, this whole kind of big piece, and it takes 4 hours each time we do it, and very, very detailed, but it's a tremendous amount of data. And then that data goes on to our system, and we use that to build a rank, and then that's how they make the investment. I think you're muted.
That piece of mentoring another entrepreneur, I think that's tapping into something really fundamental in learning, right? We know that one of the best ways to learn is to actually try to teach the thing that you're learning. And when you're starting a company, you're just running like this, and there's so much information flying at you, and you rarely have that chance to take a step back and think, what are the questions I need to be asking? And I think you're right. As soon as you're in that position where you're mentoring other entrepreneurs, you have to put on a different set of glasses and figure that stuff out. And I love that you guys actually formalize it, because I think, I've been part of these kind of startup communities where there is this, one of the beautiful things about startup communities in general of startup ecosystems is the extent to which people want to help one another. They want to make sure that their peers are also successful. There's this real getting each other's back type of mentality. And you guys have almost formalized it and codified it into a curriculum that forces these entrepreneurs to learn how to do that. And I think that's a great thing. We only have a couple more minutes for Q&A, so I don't want to monopolize all the time. I did this with the last Q&A, so I'm going to be quiet now for a minute, and let others ask questions. All right, so if no questions come in, so I wanted to talk also about, you hear a lot in Silicon Valley. Mark Andreessen likes to say this, but there are others who say it as well. And there's actually out near you guys, out in DC, there's this organization called Next Gen Venture Partners that really have codified this idea that capital is available. Everybody, every VC by definition has money. So the question is, what value do you really add to your investees? And Mark Andreessen likes to say it's basically our network. So I wanted to hear more. You mentioned this alumni support, and it was down in the corner. Right?
It's like the very last.
It was the ninth, but it seems like it's so core to what you guys do. Can you talk a little bit more about that alumni support and how you guys rolled it out?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a Yeah, absolutely. So because we're on a kind of a really tight timeline for investment, I think it actually makes us atypical for a lot of funds. For most funds, it's, when a good deal comes in, the timing can be all over the place. It can be really quick. It can be really long. Because we use this peer rank process and the curriculum, our timeline is pretty finite. And so once company is finished with us in September, my role is to say, what do you need? How can I help? We've done everything from open up office space. We have a great space in DC. We've said, hey, you're working out of DC for a couple months, come work out of the office. Or done that for people across the country. We've connected people to, maybe it's customers, maybe it's, hey, I'm really trying to get to this next point. I need X, Y, and Z customers in this market. Who do you think is a good fit? Who can you guys tap? I think what makes us unique and where we sit kind of between an accelerator and a traditional fund is that we have the networks on both sides. So we have the customer networks. We have the government, the federal, our fintech group is incredibly well tapped in with, any of the regulatory needs. We have lawyers that we work with. And then also on the investment side, a lot of our partnerships and obviously a lot of the conversation as you're growing a company is who's my other kind of strategic partner. I think for us, we always want to be the right money. We never want to be money that hurts you. We never want to be money that pushes you in the wrong direction. And so not only how can we be the right money, but how can we bring in our partners who are going to be the right fit for every company that we see. So those are kind of a couple of the pieces. And then we run bigger events as well, kind of the more traditional stuff.
Very cool. So we only have time for one more question. So I'm going to take it and, basically ask, so how can folks get in touch with you, whether it's as potential ecosystem partners who can help your investees or startups that are listening in or watching the recording of this later?
Absolutely. So definitely, literally just send me an email. It's kind of that simple. I'll share with you guys my information, and then I don't know if you can share it out with the group, or I can pop it on a slide, whatever's easier. Seriously, please reach. I think that another big piece for us is that sometimes investors seem really unapproachable, and that's totally the opposite of what we want to do. Even if a company is not the right fit for us, I'm always happy to send it over to someone else or take a look through a deck. So definitely just reach out to me, send me an email. Keep an eye on all of our social media. So our website is vilcap.com, vilcap.com. There you can find information on all of our sectors, all of our programming. You can dig deeper into kind of our process, look more at, everything that I presented. There's another couple layers of it on the website. We're really active on Twitter. We're really active on Medium. We kind of put out a lot of really great content. My colleagues are just incredible, really brilliant, insightful people. And so they're always posting about things that we're seeing in the market, things that we think are interesting. But yeah, we would love, whether it's customers, investors, partners, entrepreneurs, definitely be in touch.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Alex. Really, really appreciate you taking the time. It was great to learn more about Village Capital, and I look forward to hearing more great things about what the companies that you guys are investing in are doing, and also what you guys are doing, because it's a great model. There's something very unique about kind of codifying something that is really endemic to the startup community to begin with, and to make it real. So we appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Alex. Have a good rest of your afternoon.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye.